So today's session is about clinical supervision, and that is a little bit challenging as many of us are still working online with candidates. We know that all of our teacher candidates looks different in every state, city, district in which we're working. Sometimes some of our candidates have access to those classrooms, some of them don't. Some of the mentor teachers are sitting in classrooms with real students while the teacher candidate isn't. So we did our best to try to make this very collaborative, and but today's session is really thinking more strategically about those virtual spaces. And so I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Deidre Collins in just a moment, who will show us a little bit about the research undergirding high quality coaching and feedback for teacher candidates. We'll spend the majority of our time today in stations, and then we'll come back towards the end and do some whole group reflection together. And our hope is that you walk away with some new ideas around coaching and supporting candidates in virtual spaces, and even maybe gaining some new strategies on how you might think about asynchronous and synchronous coaching. I will go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Deidre Collins.
Thank you, Dr. Bill. So we would like to just take a few minutes to ground ourselves in the purpose of this webinar. Teacher candidates are able to engage in high quality student teaching experience when there is a teacher educator to oversee their clinical experiences in a PK-12 classroom, and then provide direction in regards to instructional planning, delivery, assessment, and reflection. So as we know, the supervisor is there to ensure the teacher candidate has a safe space to learn and provide high quality coaching and feedback in an encouraging and also very supportive manner. So on the next slide, you're going to see 3 pieces of research around supervision. So the supervision of teacher candidates has been around since the 1960s. In 1966, Robert Goldhammer formulated the model of face-to-face supervision that consists of a pre-conference, an observation of the lesson, analysis of the lesson, and the post-conference, which we still use today. But due to COVID-19, the pandemic, we are in a position where supervision in most situations will have to occur virtually. On the next slide, you're going to see our connection to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So in virtual supervision, when it's in place, we really need to consider what actions we can intentionally engage in to ensure all teacher candidates have equitable experiences and that we consider our role in their experience. One way to establish equitable experiences is to establish mutual trust between the teacher candidate and the supervisor, and to together set goals that can be observed during those post-conference and virtual walkthrough opportunities. So during today's webinar, we're going to look at how we continue to provide high quality supervision experiences to teacher candidates and maintain the collaborative triad of the cooperating teacher, the supervisor, and also the teacher candidate. So you'll see on the left side of the screen, you'll see a guiding question. And this guiding question, we're going to ask that you keep it at the forefront of your mind as we go through the rotation stations today. And the guiding question is, how can we ensure that the triad of the cooperating teacher, the supervisor, and the teacher candidate, how can we ensure that the triad remains collaborative during the virtual supervision process? So now that we spent just a moment to kind of ground ourselves into some of the research on supervision, I'm going to now turn it over to Keandra to share the structure for today's learning.
Just a reminder, we will be recording as we're moving into our breakout sessions today. Also, when we start looking at our station overviews today, our first station will be led by Dr. Deidre Collins. It's going to be the student teaching seminar. We have guest facilitators Samantha Weisler. She is a site coordinator from Texas Tech University. Our second station will be hosted by Dr. Sarah Beal and Calvin Stalker. It's going to be really digging into synchronous and asynchronous coaching opportunities in the virtual setting. And then your final station, and it may be in separate in different orders, but your third station today will be really looking at
Did we lose Keandra? Yeah, okay. Our third station will be looking at the logistical pieces and ways in which we think about scheduling and the time management related to our virtual clinical supervision. And so we'll have several site coordinators that will be there, Lydia Herrera Roca, Erica Nash, as well as Jessica Pusman from the University of Texas at El Paso. So we have some great different presenters who will support some of the facilitation at the stations. All right, and without further ado, I'd like to, before we move to our breakout groups, I created several just reflection questions that we're going to show you after each of the stations. So just over the course of the 3 stations, after each of the stations, we will just bring up this slide. So as you reflect on that learning and those ideas that were shared during those stations, we're going to just ask you to reflect on your own learning. And so you'll see these questions again following the conclusion of each of the stations. All right, and I am going to go ahead and ask Calvin to take us to our breakout groups.
Hi, everybody. I was stuck in virtual world.
Well, glad that you were able to join us, Sam. So we're excited to share with you a structure that is used to supervise teacher candidates virtually. Samantha Weisler, she's the site coordinator at Texas Tech University, and she facilitates a weekly student teaching seminar course that is driven by qualitative and quantitative data that is collected by the cooperating teacher and the supervisor. So Samantha is going to spend the next few minutes just sharing how she leverages the seminar course as a virtual learning opportunity where data is used to drive everything that happens during the session. So Samantha, I will turn it over to you. And it looks like we lost her again. Let's give her a moment and she'll be back in the room. As she's coming back, I'm going to share a document in the chat that she's going to actually walk you through.
I'm back. Hi.
Okay, Sam, we're ready. I've already shared the sample seminar agenda in the chat.
Okay, awesome. So thank you guys for your patience. I was just swirling around again. So anyways, so I will talk about seminar and how it's structured and how we use data to make the decisions based upon seminar and how this is used in a virtual setting for teacher candidates or student teachers to be using the skills in their classroom. So the sample agenda that Dr. Collins has shared with you provides a structure that we look at every week when we build seminar. So we collect data throughout the week and on walkthroughs and observations, and we use that data to leverage what that content will be in the actual class that we're teaching. So we take the setting that the students are in, we collect the data, and then we build our agendas based upon that to make sure that seminar is valuable to the student teachers. So we use the steps of effective learning, and so we connect back to prior learning and as our first step. And so the first step would be if we see something in the walkthroughs or observations, or they use a discussion in seminar from the week before, we want to make sure we're connecting our learning every week so they know that there's some kind of spiral and some kind of why set for each week. Then we focus our need. When we focus our need, we really think about what is it that we saw in walkthrough that's a common trend that we need to start focusing on. So in the actual agenda, you'll see the learning environment rubric. That might be something that we saw as a trend that we want to first start with our student teachers, because this is still early, well, this was early virtual timeline, and we wanted to make sure that they were addressing concerns in class based upon the learning environment. So we knew that was going to be a focus or a highlight based upon their instructional rubric that we use to evaluate them. Then we know that the next step would be modeling. And modeling is such a huge piece because as educators on the screen, if we model something, you know that that model could be taken from class and applied somewhere else. And so we use that model so we can make sure our students are taking the content or taking the trend that we saw, either fixing it, collaborating about it, and then applying it into the classroom. So then the next part would be development. And development is where we want our students to experience the collaboration piece. So virtually, we want them to use virtual tools. So then that way they can apply those tools to the classroom as well. So is that collaborative slides, Padlet, I mean, there's Nearpod, I mean, there's so many different things that you can use. But this is where we really want them to use the tool and apply their learning at the same time collaboratively. So there's some kind of workspace that they all work with together. Then from there, that's the application piece. So we make a decision on data. We give them the decision by focusing the need, working with the need, and then we apply that learning into their classroom setting. So we think about that triangle that was introduced at the beginning of our time together. The mentor teacher can see trends from that teacher candidate. The teacher candidate can see that they need to apply certain skills and strategies in the classroom, but then we have the supervisor that's making sure that they're learning the content, but also applying that piece at the end of the day. So you have this triangle all working together, everyone sees the actions happening, but you're using seminar to kind of leverage and launch those pieces to take place. So in summary, I guess you can say, with our structure that we provide in seminar, is that we use the data to create the decision and the focus for each week. But then the most important piece would be we can virtually still see the application through the asynchronous work in the coursework that they are provided to apply into their placements so they can bring it back that next week in class. So I think we can probably stop sharing now. One more thing that I was thinking about with that agenda is that we also wanted to leverage in the norms that they will be accountable for the work. So in the virtual setting, we knew that when we plan for seminar and we use data, we want them to use the data and the application piece to start sharpening their teaching abilities, right, to become proficient. And so in the norms, they know that they're going to be held accountable in seminar, but then also teacher candidates, site coordinators are going to be intentional in planning for the needs of the teacher candidate. And so it's not just kind of a fluff class, right? There's intention for each part of that seminar used. So I think that's the summary. There's probably a lot of information that I just gave y'all. So I'm so sorry.
Well, Sam, we'll definitely open it up for questions. We'll love if you have any questions for Samantha about anything that she shared or the sample seminar agenda. Feel free to definitely use this time to ask any questions you might have.
Samantha, I do have a question. This is Jordan Aaron from Southeastern.
Hi, nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you too. So we're, we are triangulating data as well, and we're doing surveys and different points where we're able to collect data needed for seminars with our students. So let me tell you what we're kind of struggling with, and then maybe you can give me some insights here.
Okay.
So we're collecting all this information and we're sharing it. Pardon me, my phone's very loud when there's weather updates. Sorry. So we're sharing the data with our students, with our candidates in the seminar. But one thing that we're struggling with is keeping our mentors in that data sharing loop. Just because they're so busy and so overwhelmed, we are counting on the site coordinators to do meetings with them either synchronously or asynchronously where they're sharing information. And this has been a bit of a struggle. Can you kind of share out how y'all are engaging mentors in that work?
For sure. So we notice the same trends sometimes, like we have a set schedule every month. We meet with mentor teachers and we provide the data and the decisions that are being made. But we also knew that there needed to be a different layer. And so we found that if we asked the mentor teachers feedback that they would like us to use in a post-conference, that opened up some information that we could use as data. And then we reply with the feedback that we give to the mentor teachers. So now the mentor teachers are getting data on two different levels. They're getting it in the mentor meetings that are consistent, monthly, and structured. And then they are allowed to collect data through the co-teaching model to say, hey, when you're having this conversation in a post-conference, these are some trends that I'm seeing. Now, it's not necessarily directly related to the observation, but we do set a time in the post-conference that we talk about this. And then we are able to give the mentor teachers that feedback that we received from the teacher candidate. And so it's still with that triangle, everyone is trying to work towards the same goal, but it's just one of those layers that mentor teachers feel super validated because it's my thoughts, it's my ideas, I'm actually seeing it. It adds to the data conversation, and more than likely, it's totally aligned because they're seeing the same thing we are. So that was one piece that we added, and it's usually just like an extra 10-minute piece. It's not part of the protocol or anything like that, but it's just a 10-minute piece that we always talk about through their professionalism piece. And we talk about like the relationship with their mentor. This is what we've seen, this is where we're going. And so it's super safe. It's a safe conversation. Teacher candidates appreciate the conversation, and then they start talking together with their mentor teacher because we leverage that conversation to be had. So that's just one of the solutions that we had because we knew that the mentor teacher meetings were not enough per se.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yes. Oh, one more thing is that we have a mentor teacher sometimes speak upon data that they see in the classroom in the mentor meetings. And so that also gives a voice from the mentor teacher world that they get excited because then they might be able to talk like in the meetings, and then they can say, oh, well, some of the data that I collected through observing my teacher candidate is, and they share that. So we do a kind of like a mentor teacher highlight, and they highlight data. It always has to be data-based, but that was also another thing we added in mentor meetings. So then they wanted to like really be a part of it because they wanted to speak.
Yeah, you're really empowering the mentors too. If the candidates note that those things are being shared and it really goes towards the feedback you're giving them, because sometimes we're seeing that they still kind of look at our site coordinators as like the top of this and then mentors, and we're really trying to avoid that. We want them to know that this is a true team effort and everyone is valued equally. So I like that component there. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. I think it builds their leadership as well, like just those coaching skills and leadership skills that we want our mentor teachers to have. So awesome, cool. I hope that it works out for you. Yeah.
Sam, will you share with the group some of your key learning or takeaways from last semester when you were administering or delivering the seminar course virtually? What were some things that you learned that worked really well and some things that you felt like I need to probably do differently next semester? Do you mind sharing some of those key learnings or takeaways?
For sure. So one of the key things is structure, consistency and structure. So then that way everybody knows what to expect when the unexpected is happening, right? And so we have structure, we have the steps of effective learning, and students know what they're going to be held accountable for. Site coordinators and supervisors know that they're going to model what they want the students to know. And so there's structure to the steps. And so whatever the structure may be, it's consistent. It happens all the time. It happens every week, and we don't mess any of those steps up, whatever that agenda would be. And then the other piece that I had to learn a little bit rough through, but I'm glad I'm over the hump with it, is the asynchronous work. Making sure that asynchronous work is not truly just asynchronous. It needs to be applied in the actual seminar itself. And then that way students know I'm working on asynchronous work so I can be successful in seminar. And then I could take that success and put it into my placement and come right back again. And so I was missing that link when we first started virtual. I would give asynchronous work, but I wouldn't give a lot of time in seminar for it. And then I realized, oh, let's use asynchronous work when we're working collaboratively and developing, and then that strengthens so much more with their performance in the classroom and their placements. So that was definitely something I learned, but now we're getting better, and the teacher candidates look forward to the asynchronous work now, rather than this is extra work, this is fluff, I don't really understand it, but they know how valuable it is now in seminar because that helps their learning and kind of validate, you know, oh, this is where we're at, this is why we're doing it. So that was a lesson learned.
Sam, you shared a sample seminar agenda that I'm sure you created by yourself. Is there an opportunity for you and other site coordinators at Texas Tech to collaborate on what maybe the long range plan or the unit of study will be for seminar?
Yes, we collaborate on a weekly basis. So the cool thing is that even though you're collecting data through walkthroughs and observations to make sure your seminars are geared towards the needs of your teacher candidate, there are still skills and strategies as site coordinators that we can all use to make sure our teacher candidates are applying their learning. And so we have our long range plans of, oh, we know managing student behavior needs to be the beginning, or, you know, those kinds of things. And then we all work together on what maybe worked in their seminars, what didn't work in seminars, and maybe it's an indicator that we've taught for 2 weeks and we're still not seeing the results in walkthroughs. So we can ask each other, what did you do in seminar that started, you know, light bulbs are coming on and they're applying it into their placement? And so we collaborate on Zoom a lot, and then we collaborate with our kind of regional areas to make sure that we're all on the same page. But it's a lot of, we have our own data, but then we look at what tools and strategies did we use in seminar that worked and didn't work, or maybe something different that we've never even thought about. So we want our students to experience the virtual settings. So we use the virtual tools as well. So if they are, you know, virtual post-it notes or chatting it out, trying to do breakout rooms, collaborative slides, we try to be creative with that. So even though the consistency with the steps are the same, they're not getting the same way, like they're not presented the same way, the content every week, because then that will just become not so fun every week and they won't look forward to class. We want them to be excited about class.
So I'm just looking to see if there's anyone unmuting with any questions. So we do have 3 minutes left in this final rotation. Definitely want to give you an opportunity if you have any questions or any wonderings for Samantha.
I do.
Okay.
How early on do you start taking the data?
Okay, so we start collecting the data as soon as they're in their placements. Now we know we have about 2 weeks of time that there might be kind of like an overlap. So there's always rubric connections like the learning environment, managing student behavior, respectful culture, like those kind of things that we can front load to use first. And then about that 3rd week is when we start saying, hello, here's some data. This is why we're doing it. And so we kind of anticipate and prepare them for those conversations. But we definitely use 2 weeks to set the stage. And then we get in there with really, really focused needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So with our final minute remaining, feel free to take some time to think about what you've heard and start thinking about what are some takeaways that you have as well. And Diane, can you share the rubric? Sam, is that something that you can share?
I'm not sure exactly because it is an institutional rubric that was created, but I can definitely, if you want to put your address, your email address in here, I can reach out and see if I'm allowed, and then if not, cool, I'll share it if I can. Thank you. I'll make sure to write this down.
So at this moment, it looks like everyone should have received the message to return back to the main room. If you'll click there, it'll take you back, and if not,
Jessica Pusman, Lydia Herrera Rocha, and Erica Nash with us today, and they're all site coordinators from UTEP. So they're going to start off by just giving us an overview of their program and the types of observation challenges that each of those different dynamics has created, whether it's virtual, whether it's face-to-face, or whether it's a mix of the both. Jessica, if you would like to start.
Sure. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Really happy to be here with you all. I had to come outside into my backyard. I have a house full of people online, so I came out here to kind of decompress a little bit. I am the site coordinator for the Alternative Certification Program. It is a brand new program that we implemented and are piloting this school year. With that, our ACP candidates are able to get their master's degree on a very fast track of 12 months. So when they finish the program, they do get their master's degree as well as their teacher certification. With that being said, I have candidates in all 3 of our major school districts here in El Paso, Texas. I also have 2 pathways that they're on. It's very similar to a year-long teaching residency. So I have my resident apprentices who are involved in a year-long student teaching program. And then I also have 5 candidates who are part of our resident intern. They are a teacher of record currently. With that being said, I have 21 candidates. My interns are on all different programs. And so one of my candidates is in a private school. Monday, she started with about 5 of her students coming in to campus, and the rest are virtual. So I was able to see her yesterday as one of my walkthroughs that I conducted, and she was doing both. She did pretty amazing. And the rest of my candidates are completely virtual until the middle of October.
Okay, Lydia, if you would like to share your dynamics.
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's great to meet you all. So I'm working with undergraduate residents at UTEP as well. This is my 2nd year as a site coordinator. And these 20 residents are, some of them are bilingual. I have 8 with the bilingual certification, and 12 of them are EC through 6 generalists. And they're all right now in a virtual learning setting. So they're co-planning and co-teaching entirely virtually right now. That will, but as of now, everyone's virtual. Some are teaching from home and others are teaching from the classroom with their mentor teachers.
Thank you. And Erica?
So I'm also site coordinator. This is my 2nd year as well. I have 20 residents in the field, and I have 9 that are EC through 6 in one district, and I have 11 4 through 8 candidates in another district. And just like Lydia said, all my candidates right now are teaching virtually. Some of them are on campus with their mentor teacher teaching virtually, and some of them are at home. And all their students are still at home until October, and then we will see what that looks like.
Okay. Thank you. So next we're going to talk about some of the challenges that you've had to experience with gaining access to your candidates. So if you can just talk about some of the challenges that you've had and then ways that you've been able to problem solve or just kind of deal with the set of challenges that you were given. Jessica, if you would like to start.
So some challenges that I faced with this virtual learning environment is my candidates that teach in one of the major school districts, they use a platform called Schoology. And so I do not have credentials for that district, meaning I don't have an email address or anything. I can't log in. I can't even get a student account to log in. So my candidates are amazing, and they have adapted, and the days that I do walkthroughs or complete, well, we're starting our pop cycle next week, they have transitioned to Zoom for those class periods. They're amazing, I gotta say. The flexibility is to be admired. So I've dealt with that challenge in that way, and it was just open lines of communication between my candidate and myself. That was it. We kind of had to problem solve for that situation. That's really the only challenge I have faced getting into classrooms because of the other platforms being used. Microsoft Teams, the campus that is running that program actually added me for their professional development. So I haven't had any issues. They've added me as a guest in their classroom. And then same thing with Google Meets. They've added me as a guest, and I was able to get those credentials to log into there.
Perfect. Lydia, would you like to share?
Sure. So one of the challenges that I've had is with Microsoft Teams. One of the districts that I work with uses Microsoft Teams as their platform. And I'm not sure, since I'm not part of the organization, it hasn't been easy, at least for the first walkthrough. It wasn't easy to join the virtual classrooms. The teacher candidates would provide a link for me. I would click on the link and I wouldn't be able to join the class because I wasn't part of the organization. So I had to restructure the whole thing and ask mentor teachers to invite me. First of all, they had to make me part of their classroom, and then they have to send me the actual link. And sometimes even then the links don't work. So I'll have to send them a quick text, a quick email, the link isn't working. Please send me whatever link you're using now. It seems that in some classrooms, they're changing their links almost on a daily basis. And so they're having to resend that link and update their Excel sheets where they tell us when would be a good time to go do our walkthrough. They're having to update that very often because the links are changing quite frequently. So that has been a challenge, but we're working through it. And it's, so far this week, it's worked well.
Thank you so much, Lydia. And Erica?
Yeah, just everything that she said, but also what Jessica said, that one district where they use Google Meets, one of the things that has helped is that they were able to get us email addresses. And so it didn't happen right away, but we eventually did get email addresses. And, you know, that's through our governance process, which is, you know, very vital at this point. And so that has helped a lot, is having those district email addresses to get into those platforms. But yes, as far as the Google Sheet or the form that we have them, it's not perfect in that it does have to be updated. And I was just sending text just today about, well, it's not working, it expired. And so, but it is the best way if everything's working perfectly. We actually also have them doing some of the seminar work through Blackboard, which is our university's sort of classroom management system. And that has helped as like asking them, giving them reminders through Blackboard to update your weekly form, make sure you change the links if you need to. And so we've been utilizing Blackboard to help them remember to update all the forms that we're using.
Thank you so much. So we also know that the challenge of not only gaining access, but then also being able to recreate the spontaneity of walkthroughs. So can you talk a little bit about how you've been able to arrange your schedule so that students are able to still feel a little bit of the surprise or the unexpectedness of being able to receive a walkthrough while still dealing with the challenges of having to gain access and having to really be tied to a schedule? I think it was Jessica that may have something on.
She looks frozen.
Okay. Erica, would you
I
like to
think she
speak to
looks-
it?
I'm like, I don't think she's there. Sure. So I know Jessica, and I think all of us had asked them to give us multiple times that we could stop by during the day with the links for that time so that we can maybe choose, and so they don't necessarily know which time of the day we're going. It's been kind of a half and half, right? Because it's hard for the mentor teachers right now, and some of them are better than others at incorporating the candidates into the work, and there are some class periods. So especially for secondary, it's definitely been by a class period where it's been better for me to go in and see them more active than others. So it has helped just in, making the most of my time and their time to know more or less a few periods where I could catch you. So my secondary people have given me about 2 or 3 options of periods where they are usually more active, and then my undergrad EC through 6 have told me sort of the subjects, because I usually been breaking it by subject. So they'll tell me I usually do a lot of the reading and the science, and so I kind of know when those times are.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk about how you're able to give feedback in this virtual space? Either one, either Lydia, Erica, or Jessica.
So after we do walkthroughs, we fill out a Google form where we provide information about just a general summary about what we saw. And then we provide information about the teacher candidates area of grow and then area of glow. And then we provide some possible next steps for them and next steps for them to start implementing the suggestions that we're giving them. So we fill out this form for every candidate. We send it out to them and to their mentor teacher, and to hopefully get some conversation going between them two as well. And so we do it that way, and we also do it in our seminar course. So the data that we're getting from our walkthroughs, we're integrating that into our seminar course that we have once a week with all our teacher candidates. And so we bring in specifically those areas of refinement that we see that our teacher candidates really need to work on. We plan activities and we plan things for them to help them build and do better in those areas that we've noticed that they need most support in.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the group for the facilitators today? And we're a small enough group, you are able to unmute and just ask your question if you have one.
Well, we rarely use spontaneity. I mean, the way it works, that when I've observed, is that you arrange a period to go in. I mean, this is before virtual, but you arrange a period to go in. You have a pre-conference, and then you watch the class, and then you have a debrief afterwards, and then you give the written feedback. So,
I think I know what you're saying there. I think you're talking about the pop cycles. So like, they still have their formal observations that happen twice a semester because we're doing a year-long residency. What we're talking about now are the walkthroughs that happen in between the pop cycles. So before their first formal, our goal for ourselves has been 2 walkthroughs before the first formal. Then we'll do 2 or so more in between each of the next pop cycles. So these are the informal opportunities, and then we have the formal that's still coming up.
I guess in my experience with Brooklyn College, I have never done informal. We have only, because I have never done virtual at this point yet. We're in New York. Things just stopped, and they haven't started yet. So.
Yes, I know as you're getting into the cohorts and really into the USPREP model, it is a mix of being informal as well as formal. Really being able to use the informal settings as coaching support and really being able to catch them in just small moments. So a walkthrough is really characterized as maybe 10 to 15 minutes of just dropping in with the candidates, seeing where they are, looking for some coaching strengths, and then also areas that you're able to reinforce. So thank you for that, Susan. Anybody else have a question?
Where are these Google Forms?
In our Google form box. They're on my computer somewhere. We have them, we can share them as well. I think I saw Lydia maybe looking for them. I wasn't sure if you saw the chat.
What's the best way to share them? Do you want me to, I don't know if as a follow-up email after this meeting, or Keandra, what do you think is the best method for doing that? But we can certainly share it.
I'll actually jump in as Susan. My name is Sarah, and I am connected with Brooklyn College. So it's so great to see you in this session. And I can actually share the Brooklyn specific ones. So Lydia, Erica, and Jessica, you don't have to worry about that follow-up, but Susan, know that I'll follow up with you directly so that you can see the Brooklyn specific forms.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Collaboration is teamwork. It works. Are there any other questions before we get ready to wrap up this particular session? Okay, go ahead. Adlin?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question for Jessica, Erica, and Lydia. So you actually do the walkthroughs and then do the formal observations? You do all of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you do 2 walkthroughs, but you also do the 2 formal, the first semester, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the 4 observations for the candidates that have to do it in 1 semester. Is that like a 14-week period? Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, I guess, well, we have 2 programs running simultaneously. So we're part of the year-long residency. And so within a semester, we do 2 formal, and then the next semester. So over the course of a year, we have about 190 regular student teachers who are doing the 1 semester. And I believe this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica and Lydia, they're doing 3 formal observations, right? They're doing 3 just because of this current situation. And I don't believe they do the walkthroughs in between. So they have, their supervisors, and they just do the formal observations, 3 of them in 1 semester.
So you all are considered the, you said the site coordinators, is that? And you're in charge of everything, making sure everybody has the right certification areas and placing the students and all of that?
Sorry I'm late, guys. I just got let in.
Oh.
We have, because our program we just started last year, and so the person we have who's in charge of all the student teachers has been sort of supporting us in that initial stage. And then our, yes, I can't remember her name now. Anyways, or her title is what I mean. She's been supporting us in sort of that big picture. We just started this year actually placing our candidates and then working through governance to get new campuses that we needed. And so we're now, as site coordinators, starting to take on that role of assigning our candidates to mentor teachers and working with new campuses.
I see.
And as you're getting ready to just look at your particular model for your university, reaching out to your USPREP support staff, your RTS and your clinical coach will actually be able to help you really be able to figure out the role of each person and the site coordinator and the things that they're able to support in your particular setting. We thank you so much for joining us today. It's time for us to be off to our next rotation. I am going to drop the questions in the chat, and if our facilitators can exit, and then we'll move into the next session. Thank you again so much for your conversation and for your engagement. Thank you.
That we're not experts in this in any way. This is an opportunity to learn alongside you all, and so we just have this opportunity to just engage together and think about how we can support candidates, especially as they're implementing some virtual teaching, and what do our walkthroughs look like. And so we've thought about this idea of this station is really focused on those like informal visits that we would typically make it face-to-face, but knowing that many of our teacher candidates are teaching online, how do we do that in both synchronous and asynchronous ways? So whether it's we schedule that with them and we're able to pop in online to see them teach, and or they create some videos that we can watch as their supervisor or site coordinator. Something that we would recommend when you're conducting these informal site visits is that you choose an instructional focus. I don't know if you all, but as a teacher, myself, we're all teachers. It's when an observer comes in and has this long rubric and is observing you, it can be very daunting. And so how do we make sure what we're observing for, especially in this virtual environment, is reasonable and manageable for our teacher candidates and not overwhelming? And I'll show you an example of that in just a moment. But it's really important that we're also teaching and modeling how to do this work virtually so that teacher candidates are equipped with those skills and strategies to support their students. We don't want to just, evaluate them. We've got to make sure we're teaching them and equipping them to do this work virtually. And then we'll talk a little bit today about, them filming themselves, a teacher candidate, and or, as a site coordinator or supervisor, you scheduling to do those pop-in visits if you're able to access their links, if they're able to share with you their virtual links. And then we'll close out our station around, so you've performed an observation of their teaching, and how do you give them feedback? I'm going to give you just a moment. Earlier I was talking about choosing an area of focus. So when you're conducting that walkthrough observation, how might you narrow your focus as an observer? And so here's just, if you think about it like a semester at a glance. So I'll give you just a moment to look at this. I'd love for you to come off mute. If this is something that you do, share that with us. Or if this is something that you haven't tried before, feel free to share that with us too. All right, so this is just an example, like I said, in terms of if I'm a site coordinator, I'm getting ready to conduct walkthroughs for my teacher candidates. I'm going to create a schedule for myself of what I'm going to be looking for on each of my site visits. And you'll notice that November and December, I thought, I'm going to let data tell me where the need is. And so I'm going to use how my, what my teacher candidates' needs are. And I'm going to let data tell me, where my needs are in other months too, not just in November and December, but just thought it would be a good example to show that there, the data that I'm using to gather from walkthroughs will also inform the areas I look for in future walkthroughs. Let's pretend like it's October and the weather is cool and our candidates have been now virtual teaching for a month. They've built some relationships and routines in their classroom. I've seen some really good content lessons where candidates are using and leveraging some of those K-12 curriculum to help them plan and instruct. And let's pretend like something that I've seen is the my teacher candidates are having a hard time engaging their students virtually. That is hard. And so that is something that my next walkthrough, I'm going to be really looking for is student engagement. So I have scheduled a walkthrough and we're all going to do it together of a student teaching elementary students. This is an actual teacher candidate. It was filmed last week. It's one of our coalition member sites. So it's not made up, it's real. And so it's not perfect. I want to make sure I normalize that. It's not perfect, but it's real life. And that's what we're about. It's real life. And as we're getting prepared to watch the video, we're just going to be gathering some thoughts around what are the strategies that my teacher candidate uses to support student engagement. What do we notice about what students are doing? Are students participating? Can we get a sense, is it the majority of students are participating or not? And then is there any evidence of student learning from the clip that we watch? But before I just go and observe my candidate, it's really important that I teach my teacher candidates how this can look. And so I think about in what ways can I model as a teacher educator virtual engagement strategies? So what do I do to do that? And how do I label that in my own teaching for my candidates? Can I use video? So maybe we use video together and we label it together as a class. What do we see these teachers doing to engage students? Do I have several teacher candidates who might share some of their videos with us and we can leverage their videos to give each other feedback, much like a rehearsal. But there's many different ways in which we can equip our candidates, sharing resources with them so that they aren't just being evaluated, but they're really being taught and equipped to be able to practice this in their teaching. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm going to ask Calvin to chat you a Google form. And I'll give you just a moment to open up that Google form. And we are going to, in the next 6 minutes, watch a teacher candidate. She was teaching last week with her students. We're going to watch a 6-minute clip. And I'm going to, after the video, I'm just going to give you several minutes to fill out that form, which will gather evidence on some of those criteria I just shared with you. So like, what strategies did the teacher use? What are students doing, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Calvin, who is going to share my teacher candidate.
Okay, boys and girls, do you remember when we were talking about good citizens? Thumbs up if you remember about citizens. Thank you, Kyson. Thank you, Isabella. Okay, so we're going to be talking about citizens, and I want you to give me a thumbs up if you think it's a good thing, and thumbs down. Oh, I didn't even start recording. Okay. Thumbs up if you think that it's a good thing, and then thumbs down if it's not. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Help throw away the trash near our school. Do you think that's a good citizen, or do you think that's a bad citizen? Do you think it's a good citizen or a bad citizen? Thumbs up if you think it's good. Thumbs down if you think it's bad. Okay, Thomas, I think it's good. Isabella, Abel. Okay, thank you. What about helping your community keep the beaches clean? We want to keep all the beaches clean so none of our turtles get things on there. Do you think that's a good thing that we help keep the community clean? Or do you think it's a bad thing that we help the community clean? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thomas, I think it's a good thing. Abel. Okay, Isabella, thank you. Isabella, can you unmute yourself and you tell me why you think it's a good thing? Uh-oh. I think Isabella went to go. Oh, okay, there we go. Isabella, can you tell us why it's a good thing? Can't hear you, Isabella.
Come on.
Okay. Hello. Why do you think it's a good thing that we keep the beach clean, Isabella? Would you like help from one of your classmates? Okay, would any of our classmates like to help Isabella to see why we keep the beaches clean? Okay, yes, Thomason, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you keep the water clean, that is how you get a good citizen.
Thank you, Thomason. Did everyone hear Thomason? If you keep the beaches clean, that's how you become a great citizen, by picking up and keeping our environment clean. Okay. Is it a good citizen if we take one of our classmates' snacks? If it doesn't belong to you and you take their snacks, do you think that's a good thing, a good citizen, or a bad citizen? Thumbs up or thumbs down, what do you think it is? Maya, you think it's a bad citizen? Can you tell us why? Do you need help, Maya? Okay, there you go.
It's a bad choice to take your classmates' snacks because they might say, hey, those are my snacks.
Right, and it's not good to take other snacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Maya.
You're welcome.
Okay. Oh, look at the P word, polite. Everyone say polite. Polite. Is it a good citizen if we be polite and help others? Like say if our classmates need help or we have an extra pencil, do you think that's a good citizen? Or you think that's a bad citizen if we help and be polite to others? Maya said yes. Thomason said yes. Ryan, what do you think? Do you think it's a good citizen or a bad citizen, Ryan?
Bad.
You think it's a bad citizen to help others?
Yeah.
No, we think that it's a good thing. Kyson, do you think it's a good thing to be polite and helpful?
Yes.
Why do you think that? Can you help our classmate out?
Uh-huh.
Why do you think that, Kyson?
Because they help you how to find stuff.
It helps others be nice and polite.
Uh-huh.
Okay. For the next one, if we don't follow the rules, is that a good citizen or a bad citizen? Okay, Abel, can you explain why it's not a good citizen to don't follow the rules? Why should we follow the rules, Abel? Abel's going to get a little help.
Yep.
Abel, why do you
Because
think?
if we don't follow the rules, we will get in trouble.
Right, we will get in trouble. And do we want to get in trouble, Abel?
No.
We do not want to get in trouble. Thank you, Abel. What about, is it a good citizen to tell the truth or it's a bad citizen to tell the truth? Remember, telling the truth is being polite, and if someone asks you something, you tell the truth, you don't make up things. So do you think that's a good citizen or do you think it's a bad citizen? I would like to see everyone thumbs up or thumbs down. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Abel. Isabella, Thomason. Thank you. So everyone is saying that it's a good citizen to tell the truth, and you all are correct. Let's do a little movement, and we're going to get ready for reading. Can we do a little movement?
All right. Thank you, Calvin, for sharing that. And we would just love to give you a couple of minutes to just fill out your evidence of what you saw. So using that form, go ahead and fill out that form. All right, we'll take one more minute.
Sarah, what was the age group of the students?
First grade.
And how many were in the class?
15 in this class.
Thank you.
All right, as you're filling out your forms, I don't know if you're familiar with Google Forms or how you all collect data.
All right, welcome back to the main room. Thank you so much for all of your engagement throughout each of the breakouts. We wanted to take just 2 minutes really quickly and hear from really anyone from across the coalition and on our webinar today. Feel free to respond to any one of these questions. What ideas did you learn that will inform your work, and potentially what commitments did you make, or are you ready to make in order to make adjustments? So feel free to come off mute. We'd like to just hear from 1 to 2 people.
I want to comment on the try it remaining collaborative. I just think communication is such a critical piece, and I think as we collect data and it generates for us points of reference, I think it's important for us to be able to be transparent with all of that and be able to share across, the 3 groups to remain connected. And I think it will enhance what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ellen. And can I have one other person share out on one of these prompts?
This is Shannon. I really liked the reminder of the collaborative, how to keep it collaborative, because for me, it's been really nice to be virtual, because I normally would not have been able to have that time with the cooperating teacher, because when we would do the debrief, it might just be with the teacher candidate and not the cooperating teacher because they're still covering the class. So it's been really nice to have the virtual piece because it does keep it more collaborative. And so that's something I'm trying to figure out when they go back face to face, how to still have that really great component piece without the travel time, right? So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon, and thanks for focusing on the positive of our current sort of environment. There are definitely some things that we can lean into and we can see as advantages and even continue and emulate as we continue to go back into in-person face-to-face settings. On the next slide, we just want to share with you some additional resources. We're actually going to send out the PowerPoint deck along with the recording of both the main room and each of the breakout rooms. And then in the PowerPoint deck, you'll be able to actually link to and access each of these additional resources that we put together for you on how to lead high quality online teaching. And all of them are specifically focused towards teacher educators. And so we know that this is perfectly oriented towards you, so you can continue to dig in deep and refine your own practices with your candidates and in your programs. And then on our last slide before we close out, really we want to share 2 things. Number one, in a moment, Keandra is going to be sharing with you a link inside of the chat. There are currently 58 participants in this session, and we're hoping to get 58 responses on our feedback survey. It's really important to us at USPREP that we get your feedback to learn how we can refine and adapt our own practices as we work across our entire coalition of 21 universities and colleges of ed. And then we also wanted to share with you that we're doing another virtual learning session on facilitating formal performance assessments in a virtual environment on September 21st, and that will be from 3 to 4:30 CST. I know that many of you are already signed up for that, and if you haven't had a chance to sign up for that, you can access that RSVP on our website on our events page. You'll see a little button that says RSVP. And with that, obviously you can stay connected to us via our social media platforms, whether you're a Twitter user or Facebook user, Instagram user, or LinkedIn. We really try to push out as much content and support as possible via those social media platforms for all of you. And you can learn more about the work of our coalition providers as they work to disrupt inequities all across the nation. And so with that, after you have a chance to complete your feedback survey, we just want to say thank you, and we hope that you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you at our next webinar. Thank you.